everyone. It's lovely for me to be back here at my first alma mater, speaking to you about some of my research today. Although I don't currently find myself in a research space, I recently published my first article on the diverse socioeconomic contributions of wildlife ranching, which was based on my master's thesis that I did at UCT in 2022. I now work full-time for Ecocert Southern Africa, where as a sustainable agriculture auditor, where I assess the compliance of many different industries with organic production and certain social standards, including the Fair for Life standard. Before I dive into our paper, I just want to give some background on the Sustainable Wildlife Economies project, as we collected the data for this paper from this project. So this was a multi-stakeholder project implemented through the DFFE and SANBI to understand how wildlife-based land uses contribute to sustainable land management, socioeconomic development, and biodiversity conservation. And I was involved since phase 1 of the project as a resource auditor. My passion for the project then led to me collaborating with a fantastic research team that led SWEP, who then went on to supervise my master's and then co-authored this first paper with me. So getting into some background on the thinking of the paper, we already know that the multifaceted private wildlife ranching industry has several benefits for biodiversity conservation. However, to position it as a sustainable conservation model, we need to understand its impacts on people and the economy. The evidence that we have from previous studies on this presents a mostly favorable overview of these contributions. There's broad-scale evidence available and case study evidence, but how can we provide evidence that's able to inform policy? We require it to be generalizable, but also context-sensitive enough to inform policy. And we know from previous work that the land management of private wildlife ranches differs extensively depending on the land use activities that are practiced to generate revenue on these ranches. So with this in mind, we aim to identify different wildlife-based business models based on ranches' main revenue-generating activities, and furthermore to determine the different socioeconomic contributions of these models and their financial viability within the South African wildlife ranching industry. To do this, we surveyed 268 landowners and managers of private wildlife ranches, as well as 28 conventional agriculture farms, with those farms being defined as those that earn 90% or more of their revenue from livestock or cultivation. So the information that we collected through these surveys focused on the revenue-generating activities that are practiced on ranches, the proportional revenue earned per activity, as well as the proportion of foreign visitors to ranches. And we use these revenue-generating activities, the 8 most common ones specifically, to delineate business models using cluster analysis. Then across the business models, we looked at and compared the socioeconomic data that we collected from each ranch, and this included revenues and running costs, operating profit margins, the quantity of jobs provided, and the quality of jobs provided, which I'll get into a little bit later on. So from this, we found that there's 6 distinct wildlife business models that exist, as you can see in the figure here. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on each one for the interest of time, but the most common revenue generating activities that we found across all ranches were firstly trophy hunting, followed by wildlife breeding and live sales, and lastly ecotourism. But you can see that there are 8 different activities that we use to comprise these business models in the top right-hand corner there. So interestingly, across these 6 models, we found that there were 3 specialized models that emerged, and these focus more on a single revenue generating activity as for most of their revenue. This would be trophy hunting, ecotourism, and wildlife breeding focused models. And then we have 3 mixed models, which are more diverse in the variety of activities that they practice. And this would be mixed hunting models. It's mixed, comprises of trophy hunting and biltong hunting for game meat. And then secondly, mixed wildlife agriculture and trophy hunting game meat focused models. So the economic contributions of these ranches, we found that all the ranch financials, including revenue and operating expenses, both in total and per hectare, were significantly different across models. So we see that trophy hunting had the highest annual revenue, but also the highest annual operating expenses in total, whereas ecotourism had the highest revenue and operating expenses per unit area, so per hectare. And then our mixed hunting model had the lowest revenue and operating expenses both overall and per hectare. Looking at profit, we saw that operating profit margins differed significantly. Trophy hunting had the highest profitability, making it the most financially viable model as our metric, whereas ecotourism had the lowest profitability of all models. So from this, we see that all models make potential economic contributions through their running costs, but we see that the service-oriented models, which are those specialized models like ecotourism and trophy hunting, tend to have higher running costs to cater to the high-end hospitality experience that is expected by the foreign clientele that they cater to, compared to our mixed production-oriented models, which offer the same activities several times, but the nature of the activities and therefore costs associated with them differ as they're catering mostly to a local clientele. So in terms of the employment across business models, firstly looking at the quantity of jobs, ecotourism provided the highest number of jobs both in total and per hectare of all models. And we saw that all specialized models, so including wildlife breeding and trophy hunting, provided more jobs than agriculture, whereas interestingly, mixed models provided fewer jobs than agriculture overall. Secondly, looking at the equality of jobs being the proportion of female employees to total employees on ranches, we saw that all wildlife business models had a higher proportion of female employees than conventional agriculture farms. This was highest for ecotourism, the median of 41% of all employees being female, and lowest for agriculture, with a median of 17% of all employees being female. Then the job quality. So we had two metrics for this. The first being job security as a proportion, so the proportion of permanent jobs that are provided. We saw that only trophy hunting had a proportion that was less than 100%. So this would be likely due to the highly seasonal nature of trophy hunting. Although there was also a lot of variability when looking at the agricultural conventional model. The second metric for job quality was skilled employees. So we define this as a compensation offered to employees being more than 5,000 Rand monthly. And with this, again, ecotourism employed the most skilled employees. But both ecotourism and wildlife breeding employed significantly more skilled employees than agriculture and mixed wildlife agriculture, which both provided no skilled employees across the model as a median. So this shows the potential, for example, for wildlife ranching to increase female employment in rural regions. And we also see that although there's variability here, if you take it all in all together with the financial side, we see a very interesting picture of what these wildlife ranching business models can offer. To conclude, by delineating wildlife ranching business models, we provide policymakers and investors with the tools to decide when they're developing funds and programs, how they can streamline and include also these potential positive socioeconomic contributions. And this gives us a picture of the potential for a successful wildlife ranching industry in South Africa and beyond, one which provides diverse options for communities, the economy and the environment. Thank you.